Hey friends, and welcome to the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so glad you're here. Each week on this show, I invite a girlfriend to join me and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. Happy 2020, friends. It's a new decade. It still is, even in February. I thought it'd be fun to talk to a few friends about what life was like for them 10 years ago. How has their life changed? What did the year 2010 bring them? And what has the last decade brought them? Also, we're going to find out what they hope for the next 10 years. Today, my friend Erin Moon is joining me to talk about her last decade. Erin is someone who has been requested a dozen or more times to be a guest on the show, and she is a friend that I had actually never met in real life. Erin Moon is the COO of the Popcast Media Group and the resident Bible scholar for the Bible Binge. She's also a wife, a mom, and a Texas girl living in the Deep South. We look back today on Erin's last decade and how she went from a burnt-out Baptist to a nurtured worshiper in the Anglican Church. Maybe you're like me and you aren't familiar with the Anglican way. Or maybe you're like me and Erin and you've been, as Erin says, burnt bacon on the cookie sheet of church. Wherever you fall in this conversation, I know that you're going to appreciate Erin's honesty as we look back on her last decade as a believer and how she shares with us the incredible graciousness of our Father to restore her joy. Here is my conversation with Erin Moon. Hello, Erin, and welcome to the special edition of the Happy Hour called Your Last Decade. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to chat with you. We were talking before we started recording about how this is actually the first time we've ever met, which is sad, I think, because I like you.
Yes, but we have been adjacent. Yes, to one another.
We're like 6 degrees separation from each other.
Yes, I used to work with your husband in like a youth camp context. Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of some of my favorite people at the Austin Stone. Brett Land. All-time faves. When Morris is there, I love those people. Aww, they're wonderful.
This is the best.
They love you guys so much.
Brett Land and his wife Lindsay are some of our favorite people. So good people.
I remember Brett Land when he was but a wee babe.
A wee babe. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a personal question, Erin. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 36, almost 37.
Okay. I had someone on my show one time who, this is totally off subject, but I had someone. It's like when I interview people for the regular happy hour, I do ask them, is there anything off limits? Because, who wants to be the interviewer that's like, so tell me about your sister. And they're like, right. Off limits. But they wrote in that off limits was their age.
Oh, no. I love being old. It's the best thing ever.
Well, that just really intrigued me. And so my question off air to them was like, where's this from? And she just said she didn't want to be labeled as too young or too old. And so she just didn't like talking about it. Oh. And I was like, I respect that, but wow, I've never heard that before. So way to go.
Yeah, I do respect it. I do respect it. I like that. I like a lady who knows
That's
what
exactly
she
right.
wants.
Okay, you're 36. My point with this was you mentioned student life camps, which we did student life when Erin and I were first married. We've been married almost 19 years. Here's what's happening to Erin lately. My Erin. Oh, this is confusing. Oh my gosh. My Erin Ivey.
I know.
Here's what's been happening to him lately is there will be people in their late 20s who come up to him and are like, oh my gosh, you're from Spur 58. You led worship at my youth camp. And he's like, and they're like married with children and everything. And we're like, oh my gosh.
With children.
Yes.
They have a mortgage. Yeah, it is very unsettling. It is highly unsettling.
That's the stage of life that you and I have entered into, where we now have people who are having children that we minister to them. So welcome to it. I'm in my 40s now and love it. So anyhow, Okay, this is your last decade, Erin. So 26 to 36 is what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, I'm so excited. What a big decade for me personally.
It is a big decade. Before we jump into that, just introduce yourself with your family and what your job you currently have right now. We'll jump back to being when you were 26.
Yeah, that sounds great. So my name is Erin Moon. I am a wife of one, a mother of 3. I have a 10-year-old, an almost 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. He was bonus. We were not expecting him to come in, but he's great. We love him.
And he's like the bonus Jonas. He's just there.
He is a bonus Jonas. There's a lot of estrogen at our home. So he's like, what exactly did I walk into? I'm not super sure, but we love him. He's great. And I am the COO of the Popcast Media Group. And I am also the resident Bible scholar on the Bible Binge podcast.
Girl, you have your resume down packed. I like that.
Well, I spin a lot of plates. I got to figure out which ones are going to fall so that my kids don't go to too much therapy.
I love it. I love it.
So figure out.
If you've been listening to my show for a while, the Popcast is a podcast that I recommend often, and I am a listener of, and listen to the Bible Binge as well. But Jamie Golden is one of the hosts there, along with Knox McCoy. But Jamie Golden has been on the Happy Hour, so just giving everyone a little bit of context here as to how we know each other. Okay, Erin Moon,
yes,
take us back to when you were 26. What did your life look like?
Well, my life was, I was pregnant with my first child, and we were searching. I grew up Southern Baptist, and I know you'll see, I think you have some similarities here, but I grew up Southern Baptist, like to the point, so deeply Southern Baptist that my mother's water broke on the fourth stanza of I Surrender All. And that
this is the best.
That is my entry into this world. So I was deeply involved in everything at my home church. I grew up in the same town my whole life, and I went to the same church my whole life until I moved to Birmingham. But I was in youth group. I did GAs. I was in church choir. I went on mission trips. I did deep, intensive studies about Jehovah's Witnesses so I could, learn how to preach the gospel to the, it was very, very, very Southern Baptist, VBS, the whole shebang. Mm-hmm. It was a huge part of my life. And when I came to Birmingham and I got married, and my husband, he was also Southern Baptist, and we were at a mega church with a preeminent, the next big thing in pastoring was our pastor when we were at the church that we were at. And so we were just very deeply involved in this. We had just recently been rejected from the Southern Baptist Mission Sending Agency to be missionaries. So we were in a bad place. we were really
You were in a difficult searching place. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the camp organization that we worked for. I worked for them full time. I did a lot of parachurch ministry production. I'm a theater major, so I was big into the creative aspects of worship production and that type of thing. And I was very, very a part of this type of seeing how the church worship sausage got made, as it were. And it was starting to take a toll on everything. We felt we were like Southern Baptist bacon that had been left in the oven too long. And we weren't burnt. Right. We were just too crispy, and we weren't good. It just wasn't, we were being scraped off the plate. That metaphor will end at some point, but that was how we felt. And we were just in a weird place. We were about to have our first child, and we were kind of we gotta figure this out. Is this where we're supposed to be? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? Is this the place we're supposed to kind of plant ourselves? And we had a friend who was an itinerant preacher. And when he said, when I'm in town, I go to this tiny Anglican church. It meets in the chapel on the seminary campus in town. And he was like, listen, the preaching is fine. It's not like a big church with a lot of systems. He goes, but I feel so nourished there. And that word nourished was just captivated me. And so
so I have a question for you real quick, Erin, before you jump into that.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you, I think that what I keep asking myself is, how did you discern between, because we know you made your jump from Southern Baptist to Anglican.
Yeah.
And I love that you said you were nourished. Isn't that what we want? Oh my gosh. And when you said that, I just kind of sighed, yes.
Yes.
Here's my question for you. How did you and your husband discern that you needed to move denominations? And how did you not discern that I guess what I'm trying to ask is, did you ever question your faith? Did you ever question, is this really what I believe? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, it absolutely makes sense. I think that for me, because my parents gave me such a firm foundation in faith. And I want to be clear that just because this is my journey, for lack of a better word, doesn't mean that I don't respect the fact that a lot of people have been deeply hurt by any number of denominations. Mm-hmm. And that this is not their particular way that they're going to heal. Mm. And I I respect that and I understand that. But I think for me, it was always I always felt very connected to a church home. It was kind of just my not social centerpiece in a bad way, but in a way like that's where I got my community. Yeah. My community groups came from these places. That was one of the ways that I connected with the people around me. And so for me, it was almost like when I was a Southern Baptist, I love so many people who are Southern Baptists. I have no grudges against them. But it was like I was looking at a diamond and I could only see one facet of the diamond. And it was, Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, like I could see them through this lens. And when we went to worship at the Anglican church for the first time, that diamond kind of snapped over and I saw Jesus through another facet. I saw that there are different ways to worship him. I saw that there are different ways and different teachers through this particular denomination. So for me, it was less like I have always found a home with Jesus. Like if things are confusing, if things are frustrating, if I am grieving, if I am in mourning, if I am in all of these situations, like things that would test faith, I don't find any comfort in turning away from him, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally.
And I know that that is not the case for some people because they have been deeply hurt by the institutions that claim to represent him. But that's been my personal experience. So I knew that while I thought our time as Southern Baptists were coming to an end, that I knew that there was something else out there. And I think the invitation is always to come closer. Like God wants us to come closer to him. And I think that was being hindered when I was distracted. I was frustrated in this particular denomination. And so turning to that next facet was the right thing for us.
I love it. Okay, so your friend mentions, hey, I've got this Anglican church that I visit. It's different. Like, I'm sure he was like, it's different than what you're used to. And he
was like, you need to be prepared that it's very different.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever.
So you go and you feel nourished is the word you said. And I love that. So what was that experience like for you and your husband?
It was as if the way that I'm programmed, all my nuances, all of the things that make me me, it is as if I kind of aligned. And the way that we worship and the church calendar and the routines that are not rote, but they are filled with meaning when they are done from a heart of worship, they kind of it all kind of clicked into place for me. And I loved the liturgy. I loved we stand to read the gospel together. They moved to the center of the room. It was a very physical service. It kept my attention. And that's something that was important to me. I had come to know exactly what to expect in previous kinds of settings like this, these previous kind of worship settings. And so it was very surprising for me and it was engaging. And, it was odd to go from, a mega church that I was really comfortable in to this very tiny church where people are crossing themselves and we're baptizing infants. It was just like, this is new for me. I don't know how to take this. But our pastor and his wife, who was a deacon, invited us into their home and just sat with us for hours and answered our questions and talked to us about things. And they were so kind and caring. And their whole goal, they were like, we want you to find the place that you can use your gifts and that God wants you to be at. We hope it's here because we like you. But if it's not, we'd love to help find the right place for you. It was just a completely different experience from anything I had ever experienced except for when I was a child. And our pastor and his wife, they called me and my brother their practice grandkids. And they were just so deeply involved in our lives and they were so kind to us. And it felt similar to that.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, this is refreshing. I haven't experienced this in a really long time.
All right, guys, I want to stop real quick in the middle of our conversation. I want to thank some sponsors for today's show. Today's show is brought to you by Orate. Whether you celebrate Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day, both days are coming up, and it's the perfect time to buy that special someone a piece of fine jewelry, especially if that someone is yourself. Founded by women, Orate is ethically made in New York City, offering the best jewelry options without sacrificing style. Pieces range from classic to statement to completely original. It's the jewelry you've always wanted but could never find. And because it's all real gold, you never have to take it off. Shower, sport, sleep, cook, anything. Orate hacked the jewelry market, making real gold accessible by selling direct to you without the middleman markup. They can offer the same quality as traditional Fifth Avenue brands at a fraction of the cost. All Orate pieces come with a lifetime warranty because they know it lasts. And for every piece sold, a child in need receives a book to further their education. I love that about their brand. One of the other things I love about their brand is it's women run, they give back, and they have excellent product as well. Orate checks off all the boxes for me. I love that ethically sourced, sustainably made isn't just their motto, it's their method. Everything you see is made from 100% recycled gold, sustainably made. They search the globe to source pearls and precious gems from family-run establishments supporting local communities. I ordered a piece of jewelry from them that I've actually never worn. It's their Infinity ear cuff, which, guys, is my first ear cuff to own. I feel like it gives me a little extra style and makes me hip with the young ones. For 15% off your first Orate purchases, go to oratenewyork.com/happy hour and use the promo code happy hour. That's AURATE New-York.com/happy hour and use the code happy hour for 15% off your purchase. Today's show is brought to you by Stamps.com. Guys, guess what? Postage rates have gone up again. Thankfully, Stamps.com eases the pain with big discounts off post office retail rates. With Stamps.com, you save 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 40% off shipping rates. That kind of savings really adds up, especially for small businesses. Since Stamps.com is completely online, it saves time and money. Anything you can do at the post office, you can do at Stamps.com. You can personally print off U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere. Once your mail is ready, just drop it in a mailbox. With Stamps.com, you get discounted postage rates that you can't even get at the post office. It's a fraction of the cost of those expensive postage meters. There's no equipment to lease and no long-term commitments. It's no wonder why over 700,000 small businesses, including us here at Ivy Media, already use Stamps.com. Right now, listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in happy hour. That's us. That's Stamps.com. Enter happy hour. So for the last decade, you have spent your time in the same church?
That's right. Yes, we have.
Okay, I love this. Okay, but I have some more questions.
Yeah.
So you go and you feel this nourishment and all these things. I guess my question, because I know that, like you said, there's no way that you could take your experience and put that on anyone else's experience. This is just Erin Moon's experience. Yeah. But did you struggle with the fact of, am I leaving something that, like, you grew up in this one denomination and now you're leaving for another one? Did you struggle at all with feeling like you were maybe letting your parents down, or how do I change, when I'm 26 years old? Did you have to deal with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, my dad, when my dad first came to visit, he took our order of service and brought it back to the pastor at my home church, which is where he still goes. And he was like, "Hey, I think this is okay, but will you check this out for me?" And, my
his dad's like, I got to take care of my baby girl.
I got to make sure everything's okay here. I think anytime you leave something, there's a mourning involved, and there's pain associated with that. I frequently, as my oldest daughter is getting older, I frequently mourn that she is not having the kind of big, fun, exciting youth experience that I had, like youth group experience. My grandparents still call my children's baptisms baby dedications. That's not what they are. And they're like, we're just going to keep calling it that because we like that better. So, there is this, there was never a big fight. I always want to be careful because my parents, they are so wonderful and they're such wonderful people. And I never want them to think that leaving the thing that they taught me was an indication that they did a bad job or an indication that they were less than. I think it's just a growing and it's just different, and that's okay. I mean, my dad was like, if this is the way you're going to rebel against us, then I guess it's fine.
We'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're like, okay, good, Dad, great. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that right now we can speak to the elephant in the room that there is a lot of people who are walking through hurt that's been done to them through, like you said earlier, this institution of church. And so that's why I asked you that question of, did you ever think about leaving the faith? Because I know that can be such a hard struggle for people who've been hurt by something that is so dear to them. And so I fully respect and honor everything you've said. And so I would actually like for you to speak into, like, if there's someone listening and they have been hurt from the church, like, how would you encourage them to maybe not give up their faith, to maybe try, like you did, to try to find somewhere where you felt nourished? Can you speak to that person that might be listening?
Oh, yeah. I think, no place is perfect. I find a lot of, I'm frequently frustrated with parts of my denomination and my church body. It's definitely not a perfect fit. I don't think that exists. I don't think that it should exist. But me having a theological pressure point with my priest is different than someone being abused in a system of power. So if that is you, I encourage you to, one, talk to someone, talk to a therapist, talk to someone who is versed in church trauma. That is real. I wish it wasn't, but it is so real. And these are people who can help you navigate that, and you're not going to feel alone. There are tons and tons and tons of ways to get connected to a faith community that's not necessarily walking back into a church and feeling traumatized over and over again. There are lots of churches that, operate in homes, or there are lots of churches that do small groups that are, off campus. I think that's really helpful. I think even, and another part of this is that your church experience is not the whole of your faith practice. It's part of it, and it's a communal part, and I think that is important. But also, you have a personal faith that should exist, outside of the church walls. And that is something that I think is healthy to pay attention to when you are having a difficult time or you have been traumatized by the church at large.
So good. So good. And I appreciate you speaking into that, because I know that there are a lot of people who are walking through that right now. You mentioned something earlier where you said one of the things that you really appreciate about your new church was the church calendar. And I always kind of giggle at myself because growing up, I grew up Southern Baptist as well. Growing up, I would hear the word Lent and think, oh, that's what Catholics do. Like, this is like, I don't do that. Thank goodness I don't have to give anything up, right? Like, no sacrifice, Jesus. Yeah. So it wasn't until in my last decade, actually, that I started to understand a little bit more about the church calendar. And by no means do I fully grasp it and understand it. But I, like this last year for Lent, I did, sacrifice and give up something. And it was a beautiful practice for me. And so I know that in your last decade, that's become important to you. So important that you actually have taught something about it. So talk to me about how the church calendar has kind of changed your life a little bit.
Oh my gosh, it has given me so many gifts. I feel, I think when I was younger, I spent a lot of time like Muppet arm flailing, trying to figure out like what my quiet time should look like. Am I praying correctly? And there was like this pressure to like, you need to be doing Oswald Chambers for 20 minutes every day. And, you need to have this checklist. And I think, and then I think we threw a lot of shade at the checklist because spending time with God is not a box to be ticked. And I understand the heart behind that statement, but I think when your heart is in the right place, the routine and the repetition of prayer, of reading, of all of these things can be really helpful. And that is what the church calendar has given me. It's like an anchor for me. It allows me to kind of go, it gives me markers throughout the year to say like, I can hold sadness here. I can hold joy here. Like you were talking about in Lent, no one's asking me to be happy and cheery. We're supposed to be somber. We're supposed to be introspective. So it's like you get these guardrails to experience certain feelings. And that is so helpful in our actual bodies to say, I'm going to like take 47 days and I'm going to not think happy things. Or that's not going to be like the main crux of my thing. I'm going to like introspect and I'm going to like self-examine and I'm going to ask God and I'm going to be quiet. Like that is so real for us. And, Israel's greatest sin was forgetting. And I love these feast days and these these seasons that we enter into in the church calendar because they help us to remember the things that God is doing. It helps us to mark time in such an interesting way. And it's given me a vocabulary on why I'm feeling a certain way. These rhythms, they connect me with God and those feelings. And it's not magical. It's not a cure-all, but it helps me also to participate. It's been such a good way for me to say, okay, like here's Lent. What we're going to do here is we're going to feast, we're going to fast, we're going to do acts of service, and we're going to focus on that. And I can go, all right, well, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And it's this communal, collective kind of movement through the years that I have found to be very, very life-giving.
It sounds life-giving when you're talking about it. And I love the way that you have put words to how that has affected your soul. And I love the way that you've listened to the Lord through all of this, is that you're getting fed and you're learning new things. Can you tell me a little bit about the Lent study you just did? Because I was setting you up for that, Erin, and you didn't. I know you're being humble, but tell me about this. I set you up and you didn't do it. Here we go.
Thank you. You're right. I did. You threw a perfect pitch and I whiffed it. I'm sorry. But I've written a Lent guide for this year. And it is mainly, it's on Ecclesiastes, because Ecclesiastes gets real. It's like, we're going to talk about the hard stuff. People that say the Bible is just like fluffy and floaty, they have not read Ecclesiastes. It is a tough book. It's been tough to be in. But I think we have a culture right now that is yearning for realness. And so the Lent guide that I wrote this year is it kind of talks about the basics of Lent. If you've never done Lent before, if you're like, I am a Southern Baptist, I just left the potluck and I don't understand what this is. Like, I'm supposed to walk around with ashes on my head. Like, it kind of gives a primer about that. And then it just walks you through Ecclesiastes. And then during Holy Week, we start looking at the ways that Jesus moved in his last week on earth, but using the Gospels to answer the questions that come from Ecclesiastes is, I feel like, a really deeply needed thing. I needed it. And so that's why I wrote it. Like, I look around at the world and I'm like, hey, this is problematic. We don't have a lot going for us right now. And Ecclesiastes says the same thing, has been saying it for, such a long time. And then, but looking across time to the Gospels and saying how Jesus answers all of those deep, painful questions that we have about our own existence.
When does Lent start this year?
February 26th.
That feels early. Is that early or am I off?
It is very early.
Okay.
It usually is a little bit later, but we had Thanksgiving early and that has just really messed everything up.
Messed everybody up, hasn't it? I'm like,
yes, it really has.
Can we not just move things around? Yeah.
It'd be
okay,
great.
So February starts. Yes. Where do people get this Lent study?
They can get it on my website at erinhmoon.com/store. It's right there. And you can click on it.
I love it. I love that you've created this resource for so many people, just to spend that time, like getting closer to the Lord through the sacrifice of Jesus. And so thank you for making that. I'm so excited. Okay. I have one more thing that I got to ask you about, because I know in the last 10 years, 26 to 36, you've also changed careers. So
yes,
could you ever have imagined, A, that you'd be at an Anglican church, and B, that you'd be working for a media group? So tell me how you ended up here.
Yeah. So I worked in parachurch ministry. I bounced around a couple places. We had an unfortunate 8 months in Nashville at one point where I did have a baby, but then we came right back to Birmingham. And through that process, I met Jamie Golden. I met Knox McCoy, and just got to be internet friends with them, because that's the thing that you do now. You meet people on the internet and you become friends with them. And they started the Popcast, and I was just a fan.
Did you know them before the Popcast?
Well, yes, because Jamie and I am technically the first wife of the Popcast, because Jamie and I had a short-lived podcast called The Golden Moon Buffet, which is a great name.
I don't think I even knew this.
Well, it's a deep cut. It's a very deep cut, but they don't exist. The episodes don't exist anymore.
The Golden Moon. That's beautiful, guys. I like that. Yeah.
Yes. So, but we were friends, and then Knox and I actually wrote a screenplay together, and we just I just liked them. I liked doing stuff with them. I thought they were really smart and creative. So anyway, I moved back to Birmingham.
Side point. You wrote a screenplay?
Yes.
Erin Moon. Oh my gosh. That's really cool. Like, I don't think I've ever, that's never come up in conversation with anyone before. I wrote this screenplay that one time. No, I've never heard that before. So that's awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. And it's good because of Knox, because he's a really great writer. So, but we moved back to Birmingham, and the Popcast decided that they were going to start doing live events. And I have a long history of producing live events. And I said, hey, I know y'all don't know what you're doing. Like, you're very good at your job, but this is a different thing. Can I help? I'd love to help. And they paid me with a bottle of mid-shelf tequila. It was nice.
Okay, I like that. Mid-shelf. That's a good definition.
It was not top shelf. It was mid. And then I just kind of started working for them more. And I'm like a weird Swiss Army knife. I have a lot of skills that I'm mediocre at. And so I have a weird kind of way that I can help people in this way, videos and editing and writing and that sort of a thing. And so anyway, I was writing Bible studies for a small publishing company here, and they asked me if I wanted to come on full time. And I was like, I don't know. That seems like a risk. But I did last year, and it's been a lot of fun. We've had a really great time, and it's a great job. We work really hard. But it's a really good, flexible, very, very strange thing to have to tell people that you do.
I love it so much. Now, do they pay you in dollars or tequila still?
No, I do get paid real American dollars, which is nice. That was helpful for taxes, and my husband was demanded
only so much tequila can make you work someplace. So yeah,
that's right. You can only have so much mid-shelf tequila. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love that. I love what you guys are doing over there, and I know you're a big part of it. And so it's been fun to see you take that transition and that journey into doing that. Erin, I'm so glad that we met, recording a podcast like this. We should see each other in real life someday.
Let's do it. I want to come to Austin because I really am obsessed with Uncommon Goods, the thrift store there. So maybe I'll see you when I come.
I'm very biased, but I do think it's one of the best cities in the country. So,
and I've been trying to get back to Texas, like live there ever since I moved to Birmingham. So,
where are you originally from in Texas?
The Panhandle in Canyon, Texas.
That's how you know Brett Land.
That is, yes, that is how I know Brett Land.
Oh, yay. And through student life. But yes. Yeah, Panhandle. The funny thing about the Panhandle is, and no one's going to care about this conversation you and I are about to have, but I feel like in Texas, people like disregard the Panhandle and forget that it's even there.
Oh, that is 100% true, but we like it like that because we don't want anybody. Like, we're good. Thanks. We have the best Tex-Mex. We have the best scenery. You're good. Have a good time. Dallas and Austin. Bye.
It's so funny. We'll talk about all the areas of Texas and be like, oh yeah, and there's the Panhandle. I don't know. I've never been there.
There's the weird Panhandle. It really is a beautiful place, and it has lovely people.
Oh, so good. Okay, Erin, thank you so much for talking about the last 10 years. I've really, really been encouraged your journey through finding a local church community that you and your husband and your family can just kind of flourish in, and the fact that you have encouraged all of us that are listening to look for that, and that to not hold, things so tightly that you're not willing to look for a place that you can also be nourished. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Last question about Southern Baptist. Did you do Bible drill?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, you didn't mention it earlier, so I was trying to see if you were at a real Southern Baptist church because that I was
You're right.
Like,
you were like,
I'm
so sorry. Are you an actual Southern Baptist? You did not do Bible drill.
Exactly. Okay, so I did Bible drill. That's how I am like so. And now, Erin, this is so again, everyone. We've lost everybody. I already said goodbye, but here we are. I have children. I have 4 children, Erin. And the other day, I asked them where a book in the Bible was, and they did not know where it was. Their dad's a pastor. Their mom does Christian ministry, and they didn't know. And I thought, dear Lord, I have totally failed. We have failed.
Could you think, are there still Bible drill like organizations out there? I feel like we should bring it back.
We should, because that's how I know it was so it's so weird when you think about it and when you explain to people who didn't do it. But also, as weird as it was, I had so many things put into my memory and things and so we can joke about it now, but man, thank God for Bible drill, right? But it's kind of funny. But
oh man, I was aggressively bad at Bible drill, just so trash at it. But it did teach me many things.
Yes, many things that we learned. Okay, all joking aside, thank you for coming on and talking to us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, you guys, I loved hearing how even in the midst of Erin and her husband's burnout, that their faith was not in jeopardy, and they were proactive in pursuing the rest needed to remain close to God. The body of Christ is such a powerful and beautiful family. It was so great to learn more about the Anglican Church, how the liturgy and church calendar have been sources of encouragement to Erin and her family. In fact, I want to let you know, we talked about this on here, but you can grab a downloadable copy of Erin's Lent Guide, and you should, you guys. It's an excellent resource to add to your worship rhythm as you get ready for Easter. You can grab your own copy at erinatmoon.com/store, or head on over to jamieivey.com. Find our show notes. Everything's there. Friends, thanks for listening to this special edition of the Happy Hour, Your Last Decade. Our hope in all of these shows is that you too can reflect on your last decade. Whether you were 23 years old 10 years ago or you were 65 or 12, look back and see what God has done in your life and where He has brought you, how you've persevered, how you've screwed up, what you would do differently, and what you are so stinking proud of. Also, looking back always causes me to look forward. What do you hope to see it happen in your next decade? Today's show is edited by Chris with Podshaper and organized by Lindsay Sweeney. The music is developed for the show by Matt Graham, and show notes are written by Aki Slockers. We'd love it if you enjoyed this show, if you'd share it with your friends. Word of mouth is the number one way people find out about the podcast, and we thank you ahead of time for that. Next week is Valentine's Day, and we've got a special singles edition for you all. Kelly Stamps joins me, and we chat about her Singles Day. It's an event that she's hosting on Instagram. It happens on February 15th. You're going to love her heart for singles and how God took a crazy idea in her heart 10 years ago that has led to over 20 couples getting engaged. I'm not even kidding. And married. Yes, some of them got married. I promise you're not going to want to miss this super fun conversation. Thanks, guys.